Okay, welcome to Cap10 General again. It's been a while since we posted some stuff, and today we're talking about Biden, Putin and China, because Joseph Biden has just caught up with Vladimir Putin after the G7, which should be the G8, but Russia's no longer welcome, which is slightly odd. But anyway, this is an interesting meeting. One of the anchors on cable news in America said it would have been better perhaps if it had not been called a summit, but if it had just been called, catching up for a coffee. That might be considered a bit cute, just sort of claiming you're in the neighborhood and let's grab a coffee and see if it's anything better than we get on the aeroplane. It was a summit. That's the reality. Russia is important. That's the reality. It's a member of the Security Council in the United Nations. It's the largest nation on earth in terms of landmass. Nuclear armed with hydrogen bombs, not just atomic fission missiles. Plenty of military hardware, plenty of energy, and plenty of ambitions, I think it's fair to say. Recently, and by recently I say the last 5-10 years, it became sort of fashionable to say that Vladimir's good at playing a weak hand. That was their effective theory. That's how they sort of explained it in America. Well, if Vladimir's got a weak hand, I'd hate to see a strong hand in Vladimir's grasp. So that's a nonsense. And claiming he just runs a gas station, a petrol station, that's rubbish too. It's far more complicated than that. But it sounds nice, I suppose, and if markets listen to you, then there's a financial benefit to it. But the Russians are important. They, I suppose, at the end of the Second World War, they had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, military victory ever, when in 2 weeks they drove the Japanese out of much of China. An area greater than all of Western Europe, they just took it over in about 2 weeks, especially under the command of Colonel General Krylov, I think it was, who was in charge of the 5th Army Group. And the Second World War taught them a lot, and has certainly led to them being a force to be reckoned with. So I think it's very sensible that Biden caught up with Putin. I think that's the best way to deal with the Russians, who ultimately must fight on our side and be on our side. I don't think it makes sense for either side to sort of row there. And of course now China. This is an interesting topic because it's quite opaque and one doesn't know who thinks what. Xi Jinping seems to say one thing and talk about, toning down rhetoric, and then other officials in China seem to be quite hawkish. It's quite a licorice all sorts, I suppose, in terms of trying to divine if there's a cohesive view or many competing views in the Chinese Communist Party. However, it looks like some of the tensions have sort of cooled down a bit, which is good. No one really has excuse me, an appetite for military conflict. That's the reality, and it's very likely that things will continue to cool from here because they need to. Freedom of navigation's a critical part of international commerce. That benefits everyone. It makes no sense to try and limit that. that's just noise making, and larger countries, I should say, Freudian slip there. Larger countries, they don't actually have the luxury of military conflict. They think they do, but they don't. It's not a luxury item for them. It's only a must-have. So it's a defensive. It's a defensive strategy, and we've seen that many times over. And I think essentially we should see the international geopolitical sphere cool down from here rather than heat up. And American government policy in relation to economics will have a lot to do with that now that they're spending up. It doesn't make sense to annoy the bloke in the room that's got lots of money and prepared to spend it. When that happens, it's best just to stand by and enjoy the benefits. And I'm sure that's what all other countries will do. Let me know what you think.